Hey everybody, today is the big day. So yeah, we've been working towards this for a long time. It feels like a long time. And it's really good to build up to a day like this. It's good when this happens. Today's a very cathartic day.
For sure.
It's a
definitely for
good
you,
day
man.
of release. So
You know.
Oh, you too, Ben. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like that's what we're here to talk about. We're here today to talk about Way of the Pacifist, and so it's been revealed to the world today. And what we're going to be talking about today, specifically on this very special Couchcast, and this is really what the Couchcast was always intended for. Over the last couple of months, we've had many of the team members on the Couchcast, and we've been playing our favorite games, talking about our favorite games, talking about how they inspire us, and kind of how they drive us to do what we do in this industry and make what we make. And now we can really kind of have its true purpose come to life, which is to talk about the game we're making. And now we're going to kind of we're still
thing.
Exactly, we're still going to be playing some games occasionally, but we're going to be able to talk about Way of the Pacifist in all kinds of different facets. Today we're talking about the world, the lore, the characters that make Way of the Pacifist come to life.
Meaty stuff, heavy, deep stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The core, the kernel of what there is to the game, like, you know, the seeds that have grown into what it is today. And that's why very glad to have special guest Ben Thomas.
Hello.
Who what have you done for the project, Ben? Please.
For this game, I guess Jason came to me really early in the project because he wanted to help visualize some of the key elements to the game, for pitching for things for funding and then ongoing afterwards. So my role, I'm like a friend of the studio. Like I pop in every now and then.
You are very core to the studio, my
help
friend.
out with stuff. So I've done a lot of the sort of beginning concept art and development of the look of things for the game, and then more recently done like a round of promotional art for the game as well.
Absolutely. And even equally as important to that, Ben, you were very, very important to the development of the ideas of the game, the story. You absolutely worked with me early on, and we developed the identity.
That was fun.
And the narrative of the game. Exactly. And that's the kind of stuff we're going to talk about today. Because as a game designer myself, I definitely had like a gameplay premise. I knew what I wanted it to play like. I knew what I wanted to get across from a purely mechanical game design standpoint. But you helped me absolutely flesh out the who, the what, the where, the why.
Yeah.
Those are the questions you helped answer, and that's what made it into something truly special, I think.
We definitely talked a lot about tone. Coming from this space where there's like a merging of influences and things that we talked a lot about what things that we liked and pick and choose pieces and elements out of those sort of classic things. Obviously movies like Mad Max and the whole oeuvre of like post-apocalyptic and all that stuff, and trying to distill and identify what works for us for this idea, for the context of like this particular project, and then also like trying to draw on influences. Like a lot of this, the 80s cartoons,
80s and 90s cartoons for sure, and that's one of the things that I like is the spirit of what I wanted to capture with the game, and the core of that is just having a world that's bigger than the game itself. Yeah, because that's always one thing that's really important. That's what made, specifically as we've been talking about the game today, we've kind of mentioned that like this is a licensed game for a show that never existed. Yeah. So we kind of took it that we created the show, and now we're kind of making a game based off of all those ideas. And why that's key and why that's different is that whenever you played one of those games, like those games that were based off of popular cartoons, popular comic books, is you'd be playing a game that would be 6 to 8 levels, typically, or however long it was, but you knew the world was bigger than that. Yeah. You knew there was more beyond than just locations like that. And that's the same kind of thing we kind of want to get across, is the game takes you to certain places and tells its story very carefully, but what we'd like is that we'd like you to get the sense that there is more to it than that. There's more to this world, and there's more to these characters.
And try not to spell it out like right away as well. I think a big element is that you play as this primary character, and we're being very sort of obscured
Yes.
about a lot
Yeah.
of elements behind the character. Like,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really even have like a true name,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can allow that space for the player to kind of ask those questions and then start to maybe fill in some of the gaps themselves until we reveal them.
Yeah.
When appropriate, when we feel like it's right.
Exactly. And we're gonna jump in. So we're gonna be looking at a lot of artwork today, and we're gonna be talking about kind of how that helped us develop out this world and where these ideas kind of came from, and how we turned it into the world that we have today. So we're gonna jump right in and start taking a look at that artwork. And the first thing we're gonna see is what the first thing we've been showing off today, which is the main hero key art for the game and the title. Like this is our main presentation of what the game is right now. And that's what we'll start by taking a look at right now.
Sure, cool.
And this is very finished. This is the most recent piece of artwork, and this is where everything kind of culminated.
Yeah, this is the one we're looking at right now.
Yes.
Okay. I think when I was like sitting down and starting to kind of like develop, I kind of, the video game has a certain look, and it's very sort of pixel classic 80s 90s brawler style, and it's really true to form for like those sort of spaces and influences. And because thematically the game is kind of derived from a franchise, from a TV show, I felt like the promotional artwork should sort of fill that role as well, because I know that a lot of the classic games, especially ones that are like more pixel art based for their stuff, they have like a more cartoon or comic book style for their like promotional art. So that's kind of like the angle I wanted to go for with that.
Yeah, and I think it absolutely succeeded. We have these larger than life, these huge, crazy characters that we're going to be getting into in just a few minutes. But that really was at that core. It's like, these huge, bigger than life characters, and like each one of them, a lot of the characters that you've seen little glimpses of already are a lot of the main key villains of the story of the game. And one thing that as we get to know them better over the coming months and leading into the game is I'd like to accomplish that feel of, it was really cool when you played one of those games based off of comic books, when you get to a boss, you're like, oh yeah, no, I know who he is, and I know how he relates to the character, and we'd like that to come across as much as possible. Like when a boss comes on screen and when the fight is going to begin, they're going to say something, you're going to understand the rapport between that character and your player character. But let's take it all the way back to the beginning.
All the way back.
So
we're
going to take a look at
first doodles.
Yeah, and this what we're looking at right now is one of the first full color pieces that you had completed.
Yeah, I think so. I was sort of jamming on feeling and tone for this world, because it's not necessarily Earth.
Exactly, that's one thing. So to explain, coming back to like the gameplay element, like I knew I wanted to create a fighting game, a brawler, that totally flipped the dynamic of combat. And that's why you take on a character who fights purely defensively to start. And so taking that as like what we want the player to do, then when we went out and developed the who, when, where, why, we kind of, we definitely came upon this idea of science fiction world, so a distant planet, and this really striking visual of a sun. Like this planet happens to be just in orbit around a very volatile, perhaps nearing the end of its life cycle kind of sun that just bears on this planet.
You could picture Earth if it was like in like a billion years or so, as like the heat death of the sun, it starts to become more of a red dwarf star, and as a result the planet is like nearly uninhabitable, like you're just on the cusp. If there's humans here, maybe they're the last ones.
Yes, exactly.
Just
and that
remnants.
And that pushes the narrative forward that it's very difficult to survive on this planet.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that it's difficult to survive. It's got this overbearing star that rules the planet. And one of the key elements is that like exhaustion is deadly. Wearing yourself out and becoming tired. And that's where our main character, the Wanderer, has learned to survive by mastering this passive fighting technique where they expend the least amount of energy as possible. They allow their opponent to wear themselves out while you just outlast them. And that fed right into the gameplay very well. And that's when you know you've got something that really works. is when the narrative feeds the gameplay, and the gameplay feeds back into the narrative.
It's all connected into like a nice, neat little package.
And that's really when things started to gel, and we felt really good about things, which was great. And that, once again, like, Ben, that's largely thanks to like your visuals and how you communicated that so clearly.
Yeah, I wanted this space to feel very colorful. Like, I think when I think back to a lot of classic brawlers, if we're gonna go draw back to the sort of all our influences in the 80s, they're not timid about blasts of color. So this place, this planet, I wanted to be just blasted with like this crazy light from the sun, and kind of blown out. Not necessarily like traditional desert blown out, because that's just more like yellows and whites, but I kind of wanted to bring in more magenta hues and deeper reds and things like that, because I think that added to sort of a severity of the world, a harshness to
absolutely it. And for it to be instantly recognized as alien too was something important. Like, didn't want to look at it and you just think like, oh, that's a desert location on Earth.
Yeah,
it's unmistakably somewhere else. Is very important. And so from this, when we were developing out this character, that's what kind of brought us into deciding upon the player character, the main character of the story. And we initially started in discussion with you, Ben, we knew like kind of very nomad like a loner, and so you had initially created all of these early concepts, and talk about them.
When we were just jamming on ideas about, especially mechanically, the core tenets of this character, like the foundation of what they do and how they do it, I kept thinking of this person's like a monk, like they're kind of like a Shaolin monk, or someone who is sort of deeply invested in some sort of martial art. And so as far as like reference, I started doing like a deep dive and a lot of just sort of kung fu styles and like sort of like monk types and things like that, and bringing sort of like visual aesthetics and signifiers from there into the player character. So that's why like a lot of these drawings is just sort of sweeping tunics and loose fitted clothing. What else is in here? I'm trying to think if there's anything that's like really different than a lot of others. I guess that's it. It's like a mix of monk and then sort of post-apocalyptic sort of Mad Maxian attire. So there's like leather pants, and there's lots of bandages.
Sure, exactly.
There's one of my favorite drawings is like the top left, like the second.
Yeah.
On the top left, little guy giving a little thumbs up, with his sort of like a kind of like a hairstyle as if he had like a little bit of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I think that take was like a little bit too much attitude.
Yep.
For you. And then we ultimately, I think the main one that we chose from this list, unless you want to talk about that later.
We'll come to that.
Yeah, cool.
But like, I like that what we kind of, and what you were doing a very good job of, is that there's many variations, but you can still see how they're kind of adhering to, there are some key tenets.
Yeah.
Like survivalist.
Yep.
And disciplined were two of the ones that always kind of came to mind. Like someone who knows how to survive and someone who's very disciplined for the most part.
Attuned with their body as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're very physically capable. We're not going for maybe a traditional hero character where they're like super buff, you know, and they're like an A frame triangle type of like hero. They're light, they're lithe, they might be even slightly small.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that's a little bit more appropriate for this kind of character, who's more focused on diverting energy instead of like packing really powerful punches.
Exactly. And speaking of packing very powerful punches, like there's definitely at a later time I'm going to be going on like much more deep talks about design specifically. But one of the things that did come up very early is we realized the player does need, like, we do want the gameplay to focus on the defensive fighting because that's very important to it, but the player needs a little bit of offense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what evolved the character further and what led to the mechanical arm.
Yeah.
Which kind of like was very, like, nailed it quite quickly. Like, it was really good. It was serving the purposes we wanted to, while offering a really nice like asymmetry to the character is what I like about it.
Yeah.
I like the character's stance is very asymmetrical because there's the one utility hand that's always out, and then the mechanical arm is tucked away. In fact, if you pay attention to the animations in the game that you'll be seeing as we go forward and in the coming weeks and days, the mechanical arm always hangs limp at the character's side. And you notice when the character walks, when the character jumps, that one arm always hangs limp at their side.
Most of the time, it's a dead arm.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not always useful, and there's more to talk about that design later. But it just in terms of like the visual design of it, do you have anything more to say about that?
So in this world, there is tech, right? In this game, there is like technology, but a lot of it is kind of ramshackled and sort of bashed all together from. Maybe a lot of people just found technology just lying around from remnants of previous civilizations. I mean, that's very common themes in a lot of sort of similar post-apocalyptic settings. So I wanted the tech to feel... I wanted to be recognizably tech, but I didn't want it to be sleek. I didn't feel like it was appropriate to what was being aimed at for the story, and mechanically I didn't want it to be like very uber powerful or to look like it's like definitely not Mass Effect or anything like that. More kind of homebrewed and put together by like this guy. He may have put together this arm on his own. And so I wanted a lot of exposed wiring and sort of different organic shapes sort of running throughout the main silhouette of the design. To give a feeling that it's, I guess what I'm trying to say, it's just not perfectly clean. There's some edges to it, and lots of tubing.
Yeah. There's lots visible in the character, and it does a really good job because the tubing does a good job of joining the mechanical to the organic.
Yeah,
like you can see it plugged into the arm.
Plugging it, yeah, definitely plugging in. And the tubing, I think, is a nice extension. It's a bridge. It's a bridge from the organicness of the actual human character themselves, and then all the mechanical augmentations that they might have, all the harder edges of what they feature.
Yeah, exactly, and that's ultimately where like the final character design kind of wound up.
Yeah.
And this is getting very close to the final character design. Like there's a few variations on faces that we kind of went through, and ultimately we did wind up with something that we were kind of very happy with.
Notice that all of the faces obscured, like in all of the drawings and all the designs.
Yeah.
How come?
Well, it's because, speaking like you said to body shape as well. Like one thing that was important to the character is that the character have this gender neutral feel.
Yeah.
Kind of, and it just speaks more to the mysteriousness of the character, but also I like one thing that's been important to me is not just to say that we're not doing a bait and switch or we're trying to fool you at all.
Yeah.
It's just like that's not core to the character. The character is either or neither or both.
It's important for the player that's up to them.
Yeah.
That they're able to sort of fill in that space on their own and make their choice for that. So that's why pretty much every single design, even from the very beginning, the first sketches, the character has been masked via like bandanas or scarves or like oxygen gas masks, and you found that this was the kind of the look that sort of epitomized that as well. So all the elements of like survivalism, and you got a big mix of like Mad Max stuff in there, but then also trying to keep the sort of wandering warrior monk feeling in there as well. Yeah, I like this design.
I've always been super happy with it from the beginning.
If you want to go back to the first sheet of the first drawings that I did. The first drawing of that character is the middle on the right. I think that's the the very first. That's the very first look of the character, or the one that's in the middle on the left.
Yeah,
they're pretty
exactly.
similar.
The two far left and right ends of that middle row.
Yeah,
we're very close, and like very early on, like it was there was some smoothing to do, but like it was really very early on. I feel we kind of really nailed that. And we felt good about it.
Yeah,
And like most things, it was feeding the story we wanted to tell, and it kind of made sense.
You know, thinking back around the time that we were jamming on these ideas, I was thinking a lot about the new Star Wars in my head.
Okay.
And I'm a big fan of Rey, and I'm a big fan of like her reveal, or like when she was introduced in the new movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of like, that was a feeling that I thought was appropriate, and was something that I was searching for a bit. So I just want to say that was like in my headspace, floating around
nice.
when I was drawing these.
And we'll jump and take a look as what people have seen as the final polished character look is really good, and the colors are really great. And actually, the colors,
I didn't do those.
The colors came from who we'll be speaking to very near in the future. Like I said, we'll have many team members of the team on, but Rosemary, the pixel artist animator who's been bringing characters to life, she's part of the animation team that's really working really hard on these characters.
It looks so good.
But when she made the pixel art version of the character, she gave it the color treatment, and everything worked really well.
Oh, it's perfect.
Like, all the colors really worked really well, and the orange pops, and the hair is a really great color, and the costume turned out really well.
Definitely.
And then, luckily, you kind of brought that out and brought the character to life once again. And so the art is really interesting to watch it develop both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the pixel art informs the line art, and sometimes the line art informs the pixel art.
Yeah.
And kind of the way they can go back and forth is super interesting to me. And on all sides, on all facets, everyone doing the art for the game is just doing an amazing job.
Yeah, what's really cool is like I've done a bunch of work to sort of get the ball rolling with a lot of developing the world and things like that. But like the kudos to like the rest of the team's actually producing the game art wise. They've gone and filled in so many other gaps and things that I just didn't consider or didn't think of. It's all with the aesthetic for things, and it's all been like firing in all cylinders as far as I'm concerned. I love it. Yeah,
it's been amazing. And once we had our main character, we kind of go back into like that world building, and some of the early stuff you did, like taking a look at this, Ben, like I really liked further pushing that idea that it's an alien world. And these were all kind of conveying that. And there's many of these elements that are kind of being brought into the game.
Yeah.
But this was a nice snapshot of what we ultimately wanted. And it was that, so the middle row, the middle column, the top, was what we ultimately turned into that full color piece we saw a few slides ago. But all of them were really kind of reinforcing that kind of alien world feel.
Harsh, and blasted out. Like if you have a dying red dwarf star like that close to your planet, it's probably not super fun to live on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I would guess. I imagine that like Mercury is probably not the super best place
exactly
to build a house.
Exactly.
I think that was like my main drive for like when I was doing these color keys, was trying to find the right tone. I think the top right one was kind of more like an eclipse kind of feel, without like the moon actually coming in front of it.
Yeah.
A little bit darker, a little bit sort of more dusky kind of feel.
Yeah, lots of good stuff in there. And as we kind of continue to think about this world, and not even, because I mean the look kind of makes you think of post-apocalyptic. But it's not even necessarily that there was an apocalypse in this world. There was not a world-ending event. It's just that this world is so harsh. Everything is worn. Like, something could be newly built, but it's instantly worn because everything on this planet is so harsh.
Yeah, I think that was like, that's a big deal as well. It's like a lot of similar sort of worlds and sort of themes and looks. It's because of humanity. Usually it's because humanity went and destroyed their old civilization. But this one, it's an external factor, the sun, and no one could stop it. It's just like the star is dying, and everything follows as a result. Yeah.
And but that's exactly kind of where we're building out this world and these interesting locations, and not only industrial, but like I like this idea of what became like a through point to everything. That's very thematic at the core of the game is the sun. And we're going to learn a little bit more of that as we talk more about characters in a few minutes, but like the sun is always present even when you're underground. there's still sunlight, which comes in the form of like these crystals that are like crystallized sunlight.
Yeah, they're
like the sun has been beating down on this planet for so long that like sunlight has embedded itself in rocks that have made their way underground. So sunlight permeates every part of this planet.
Yeah, the planet has like absorbed a lot of the energy and radiation from the sun, and it's probably not super safe radiation either.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's why we've got these sort of glowing crystal caverns underground. They're bioluminescent, but I guess it's because they're just like batteries. They just stored up a lot of energy, and they've started to mine it out.
And it speaks to, like I said, the sun truly is the biggest threat on this planet, and you can't escape it.
Yeah.
Even when people thought they could go underground to get away from the sun, they could not. You just cannot escape this the ever presence of the sun in this world. And then some stuff this is much different. We're not going to go into huge details with this.
We've jumped a bit now.
Yeah, exactly. And it just speaks of like where like the locations you'll span in this game. And we won't speak too much of this because it's spoiler-y maybe, but like it's later in the story, and we'll save a lot of that for later. But there is a dark side to this world.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of playing into the story and stuff we're not going to give away at this point. But like, yeah, exactly. There's stuff happening in this world which is kind of what kicks off the narrative of this game, which like we kind of discussed, this game is like one story in this world, but the world is much bigger than that. But like this is one of the stories of this world, and it maybe revolves around stuff like this.
I think one important thing to say is like the circumstances of like the environment of the world, you know, via the sun being this ever-present, horrible, harsh thing, has forced people, pockets of people, working separately or together to act in certain ways, to sort of, it affects their behavior with each other, and I think that's really important, kind of narratively, especially like the main narrative of the game. So I guess people will find that out later on. More streams, and then when the game actually comes out.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely stuff we'll touch on later. And like I said, stuff to discover as you play. So the big thing about the game, in addition to the world, is the characters. And the character art has been very prominent. It will be very prominent. Like, this is a game about the characters. The characters are larger than life. There's these huge personalities. And you were very integral to the development of a lot of these characters, man. A lot of them you came to me with these concepts and these ideas.
Yeah.
And I think there's some on the cutting room floor, and we'll talk about those someday maybe, but like...
I hope it's not this one.
No, of course not.
This is guy.
Just all, like, every idea was amazing, and like we definitely went through a process with each one, but the first character, like one of the first characters you had that I really, really enjoyed is this kind of idea of like this biker character, but like he's literally got it built into himself.
Yeah, I'd say it's the most rambunctious of the ideas in terms of like I guess follow through or kind of like he's the most ridiculous a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take
sure.
In terms of like trying to nail the certain theme and aesthetics and the feel of, you know, like the 80s cartoons and stuff like that. Yeah. This guy is like the top. He's a 10 for sure. Can we say what name he is, or do you want
we will in a second.
You will? Okay.
Oh yeah. And here he is cleaned out a little bit. And this is actually, when we announced the company a few months ago, this was one of the only pieces of artwork that I kind of showed, because I was so excited about this guy. He's amazing. Exactly. He's over the top character, and I don't even have much to say other than I friggin' love this character. He's amazing.
Yeah.
And
it's if people aren't sure, he's the bottom drawing. The wheel is attached to, like, it is his arm, so he's kind of half a motorcycle. Yeah. I guess you could say. Yeah, and the rear part is kind of like a throne he has. Yeah. That he kind of sits in, and he just needs to lean forward. He can drive himself around, which I loved. But yeah, he is Bad Biker Breen. Bad Biker Breen.
And there's plenty more to talk about this guy, like that we'll do later for sure. But he's one of these characters, and we're going to touch on some of the characters that are part of the art we've shown so far.
Yeah.
We're going to go over at least the 4 main villains.
Yeah.
That we're going to talk about today. And he's the first of them. And like I said, once again, one of these characters who you really want to get into a fight with him. Like, it's really, like, when you come across him, you feel excited. You're like, oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah, I really want to fight that guy.
Yeah.
And he's entertaining in himself, and he's a really awesome character. Yeah, he's Bad Biker Breen. I guess we don't have much to say right now other than that he hates books. That's his...
Despises books.
That's his key character trait. He hates books. He really hates books.
Mostly because he can't read them, because like he needs both hands to hold a book, and the wheel just kind of gets in the way of turning pages. Or he needs a really big book, just a massive book.
But he's a bit of a... But he is very much like this kind of character. Like, what I like about him is that you could see him being a villain in a show, but you could also picture him as an action figure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like that's why I like with the character design as well. That kind of speaks to that type of character.
I want my fully articulated version of this guy.
Yeah,
definitely.
And next up, this actually might have been my favorite character.
Oh really?
Yeah, I really like this character, and I'll let you talk about where he started.
Yeah, these were the first sketches when you were kind of giving me the design prompt for who he was. Okay, so we talked about the sun being this ever-present, crazy element in the world that kind of just beats down on everything. There's going to be some people that are going to react a certain way to that sort of presence, and I felt like you're gonna get some sun worshippers. You're going to get some people that are going to sort of idolize and try to make tribute to the sun as well. So I was thinking of this sort of priest type of character. You want to talk about his name?
Yeah, he is. This character is Tanner.
The Tanner.
He's named Tanner because he lives his life in the sun
constantly. Constantly,
exactly, and he carries around, or he bears the burden of this giant lens that focuses pure sunlight that he uses to just disintegrate non-believers in the sun. Those who don't respect the sun die by the sun.
He's like literally carrying the word of God. His God, by the lens is a way to channel his faith, and use it to convert people. If convert is a euphemism for death.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, his skin is burned, and he's blinded.
Yeah,
he's blinded from like staring at the sun, and his skin is completely burned from just existing in the sun all the time. He never takes any shelter. In fact, he wears little pieces of reflective material.
Yeah,
over him.
He's kind of a collector of broken mirrors and broken glass to kind of sort of kit himself out to reflect as much of the beautiful sunlight as possible. And
that's where he wound up with this final look. And the wrinkly, leathery skin, and I love this character, and both from a really good once again, from a narrative standpoint, fits into this world so well, makes sense. And then gameplay wise, there's lots of interesting things we can do with this character that I'm really excited about. But yeah, so he's the second of these big baddies. The next one, so we knew we had those locations, we had those underground areas that although underground you still can't get away from the sun, but there's still there's subterranean areas, and this is the character that lives in those subterranean kind of areas, which is this miner,
the hermit.
The hermit, very good example.
These first drawings, I guess I was very similar to the biker character, Breen, as far as like his arm is actually the tool thing, which I think was probably a little bit too far. You probably felt that way as well. So yeah, these are the first kind of a couple ideas, and then I think I did this one. Yeah,
this one came right after, and it turned out quite well. I was immediately happy about this. This is really good, and I like that he's literally wearing a minecart, an upside down minecart, like he lives in it, like a hermit crab.
He's a hermit crab. I think that was the main sort of design cue for this guy, the miner.
And then it's got the light crystals sticking out of it that he walks around as his own light source.
Yeah,
through these caves.
you know, like, can we say why he's down there doing his thing? He's mining the crystals.
Yeah.
And so he kind of started to use them to his own benefit.
Yeah, and he's very clearly, you know, he's a henchman type character, so he's doing it for a very specific purpose that may come into play later on for sure. But yeah, once again, just a really interesting character that thematically fits into where he belongs and has some great gameplay potential that we're going to do awesome things with, which is what makes me also doubly excited. And he turned out extremely well as well. Like,
what's his name?
He's Judge Dredge.
Judge Dredge?
Judge Dredge. I love that name.
That is so good.
I love that name.
I didn't know it was Judge Dredge.
It's Judge Dredge. Judge Dredge.
That's great. He should have like a gavel or something. I really like actually how this sort of design turned out.
Oh,
the
quite.
Colors.
Yeah.
Kind of. I think it kind of nails kind of the tone that we've been going for this whole time.
Absolutely.
Which is like, it's a little bit of, there's a lot of post-apocalyptic stuff in there, but I just kind of wanted to bring a little bit of a fantastical edge into it. That's why you've got like these glowing crystals like bursting out of like his shell. The fact that he's wearing a minecart in general is just kind of stupid, but I love it.
No, it's amazing. I love it. It makes him interesting. It's that little bit of extra that just makes him an interesting character, I think. And finally, the last character we'll talk about today. Once again, has a specific purpose, fits into the story a very specific way that we won't get into right now, but he's essentially the plant guy.
The plant guy.
Which we'll start with right now.
It's very different.
Yeah, exactly.
Than all the others.
With this sun-parched planet, clearly there's not a lot of foliage, there's not a lot of plant life, except for somewhere very specific. And
there's probably not a lot of water.
Also, very true, except for in a very specific place, which is where this guy kind of fits in. And what do you have to say about this guy?
Can we say what his name is, or just call him? The planter.
So he initially we just started with the name Green Thumb.
Green Thumb, yeah.
He was the Green Thumb. But then by the end, by the time we get to his final design, he was named Dr. Thornborn.
Thornborn, I love it. Puns everywhere. So the main design prompt was that I got from you is that this guy's just he's kind of a gardener, and he's wearing a giant water tank. But that is connected to like an articulated sort of scorpion tail.
Yeah.
And he can suck the juice out of people.
Yeah, he basically takes,
using that tail. So he's a harvester of fluids.
Yep.
It's not necessarily water, but like he's harvesting the fluids from living beings, whether or not that's people or not, and then using it for some dark and nefarious purpose. And I think as a result, the water or the liquid in the tank gets corrupted and poisoned, on purpose or not. I guess that's to be revealed.
Yeah.
And there's a byproduct from that, and that he might apply that to some of the flora Flora. I get that mixed up all the time. He applies it to the plants in his greenhouse, and they mutate and they grow into these horrible monstrosities that you see on the right.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of cool things that they do as well. But exactly, yeah.
These were super early, just trying to find the right tone for the mutated plants. Cool. Okay, so it's like a little bit kind of getting closer to the look of the design.
Exactly. And there was a touch that you had put in that I really like.
What's that?
Which are his feet.
Oh yeah.
That's a subtle touch that like immediately I saw it and I was like, oh no, that's good.
If he's walking around in the poison sort of toxic water sewage,
he wallows in his own.
He wallows in it. It's gonna affect him a little bit as well. So maybe he's in the way of transforming and turning into a monster himself.
Yeah. So you can see his feet. Yeah, his feet and legs are kind of semi-corrupted by plants that are from his own concoctions. And there's a lot of cool stuff about that. And he made a subtle change when we went to the final version. He probably changed the most. although it's just a little bit.
Yeah.
He changed the most between we got to his final version. And I really like what you captured, like with his final image. Not quite like a mischievousness.
Yeah.
But like I like that like he is, and this kind of came from like how he's kind of self-infected himself. He has this like in over his head. Like he's got this plan and he's doing these mutants, but then like maybe it's gone out of his own control even. He's not even in control of his own chaos.
Yeah, he's a little hapless.
Yeah.
Thornborn, he's kind of a product of, he's just kind of like oblivious to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
A little bit. He likes his little bubble, his little greenhouse bubble world, and he likes tending to his precious wards. I guess you'd call him. Yeah, he is fun to design. Yeah. As
with everything, and everything fits together. Everything makes sense. They make sense side by side. And when you take a look, once again, coming full circle back to the group shot, like they all fit together. They're a great cast.
Yeah. And
there is another character that's in this image that we will save for later, of course.
Whoa.
But but everything feels like a world, and that's what we're excited about.
Yeah.
That's what's really cool. And so that's kind of been talking about the lore, the world, the characters of Way of the Pacifist today. We revealed the game today. We're talking to the world about it for the first time. We're very excited about that. Also, really big news for us is this weekend at PlayStation Experience 2016 is when people will have the chance to play the game for the first time and see gameplay. So we're holding up on that right now because this weekend at that PlayStation Experience is your first chance to both play it and see it be played. And we're really excited to get people to play it, get their thoughts, and just show people how it feels. We've definitely shown how it looks.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to be filling people in on how it sounds.
Oh, it sounds so good.
Which it does sound so good.
The music for this, I think like the music just absolutely nails like the tone and the feeling.
It does. The soundtrack is amazing, and we're definitely going to be touching on that a lot in the future. Right now, if you visit wayofthepacifist.com, you can see a ton of artwork. There's screenshots. There's the trailer as well as a little preview of the soundtrack. We got 3 of the music tracks uploaded there to listen to kind of get you a feel of how the music feels in the game, which is kind of just like the art, just like the characters. They're bigger than life. They're all over the place. Mm-hmm. There's an exuberance and a flair to everything that we want to get across to everybody, and we're really excited that now's the point where we can talk about it. You'll be able to play it very soon, and over the coming weeks, over the coming months, all the members of the team are going to be on here. They're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about the pixel art specifically because it's great. We're going to be talking about the animations, the music, the design, the art direction.
Is so good.
There's so much to talk about in the coming weeks, and we're just really excited. And thank you very much for everybody who tuned in today and for everybody who's watching. But this is your introduction to the world of Way of the Pacifist. This is a bit of a weight off, but it feels great. It feels great. Although now everyone can see it, so the pressure's on more than ever before.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're really excited to get you to see it really soon. So
yeah, you were just bursting at the seams to kind of announce this. You've been jamming on this real hard for a while.
The entire team has been putting in an amazing effort, but yourself included, man. Like everyone's just been doing top-notch work. But thank you very much for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you guys soon on the Hustle Games Couchcast.
Bye.